So number one, my personal opinion, you definitely want to start partially at least attacking that. Okay. And now on the investment side, in my opinion, it's going to depend on what type of investment you get into and what the specific, let's say, hold period or time period is, and then what the arbitrage opportunity is. So arbitrage opportunity, let's say I have to pay 6% on something, okay? But instead of me putting that money into that, I can go invest that and get 12% instead. So that I've picked up a 6% gap between what I would have paid on the interest on the loan versus what my investment would have been. So we took advantage of what we call an arbitrage opportunity. Now, the important piece though is, hey, if you're going to invest in something that maybe pays 12%, how secure is that? What type of investment are we talking about? Because like anything else, investments you're investing, it's at-risk capital. No matter what you're investing in, your investment's at-risk capital unless you're investing in treasury bonds and in T-bills, right? That's the whole a conversation that we have and folks should have to say, okay, if I was going to put everything in there, I want to put in someone else, what would it pay me? How secure is the investment? What's my time horizon or hold period?
Hello everyone, I'm Johnny.
And I am Theresa, and today we have with us Mr. Rob Natale. He is the founder of North Square Capital, and he will explain to you and introduce himself to the audience for us.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And again, thank you both for having me on. Very much looking forward to chatting with you all today.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So now I need you to introduce yourself to the audience, tell them what you do, what you specialize in, a little bit about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, my name is Rob Natale. I'm based in Boston. I am the founder of a company called North Square Capital. So at a very high level, we focus on helping medical professionals defeat burnout, build wealth, and retire in their terms through passive real estate investing. Now, as far as how I got into this world, a little backstory. So I used to work in the world of Wall Street, more or less, at company called Columbia Threadneedle Investments. My job, role, and responsibility was to call and work with financial advisors out in the Pacific Northwest, so Washington State, Oregon, Alaska, and sell our different investment products, such as mutual funds, ETFs, college education 529 plans, etc. And I'd be working with a wide range of folks, from sole practitioners managing a book of business of 20 million to essentially these mini family offices that were managing $3-4+ billion in assets. And what I noticed was the teams that were managing the billions in assets were utilizing strategies that 90% of the population does not know exist. And one of those specifically, which we'll get into later, is something called real estate syndication. So to me, it felt very much like candidly, a good old boys club, where the wealthy are keeping ideas amongst themselves. And that is very much a 180 dichotomy from my background. I have 3 family members who either were or are medical professionals. And anytime information is discovered in that field, that is disseminated out to the masses for the betterment of all. So that was the one piece I noticed. And the other was, I would talk to my family about what was going on at work, and really the massive overarching theme of burnout, which is higher in the medical community than I'd argue any other industry out there.
Right.
And all the headwinds that medical professionals are facing between the corporatization of healthcare, restructuring of contracts, insurance companies dictating how physicians can treat their patients, employers not having their back, high moral injury. We can even continue to keep going, but I just could see and hear the pain. And the last piece for me, what really made me make this pivot was, twofold. One, I would talk to them about what their financial advisors were doing. And it was very much a cookie cutter approach where they're putting a generic 60-40 portfolio, 60% stocks, 40% bonds. The financial advisor would collect an asset under management fee of 1%. And if the market went down, it's, hey, it's the market. And for those listening at this recording, the market has gone through an absolute wild past 5 days. And say, buy and hold, this is it. So I saw how poor the financial services industry was treating them. On fact, and there are great financial advisors out there, right? But my experience was it wasn't a bad seed, it was a bad tree. And what I mean by that is many financial advisors do not operate in the best interest of their clients. They don't operate as true fiduciaries. and it's what's in it for me versus what is the best actual fit and scenario for their clients. So that was really the final piece where I said, I no longer want to stay in this industry. Moral compass is no longer aligned. And that is what led me to start North Square Capital. I said, okay, I'm going to focus and help while I work with others outside of medical, focus the company on folks like my family members and show them, educate them on a strategy that the ultra high net worth use. And I want to help them get to where they want to get to financially. And again, defeat their burnout, retire in their term.
I like that.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, because you're right. In the medical world, it's always patient care and taking care of patients, and it's continuous. So you could easily get burned out pretty quick.
Yeah, and then I just want to also state too and point out that you said about the insurance. And so insurance is getting pretty strict with what physicians can do, how much they're getting paid. And that can also lead to burnout and even patients being affected, because if they're not being paid correctly, they might not see the patient and they may not give them the care that they really need, because the insurance companies are getting so strict on the physicians, especially, with the DRG rate. It's getting pretty strict. And so we're hoping that physicians don't leave the medical world because the insurance is getting so strict.
Yeah, the reimbursements, it's become a nightmare, to echo what you're saying, complete nightmare.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Wow. So we understand why you went into, left your a regular job and went to, and created your own firm. And so you started choosing the medical profession because you say, hey, they're being burned out. Who can help them excel past this burnout rate and actually build wealth at the same time? So what are some of the reasons why the medical professions miss wealth building opportunities in real estate?
Yeah, we can go down. The overarching, I would argue, is there's 11, 12, 13, 14 years of schooling, and there's no education on investing. There's no financial literacy. None of that is being taught. Okay. Mm-hmm. And the component of why medical community is not even investing in real estate, and particularly, I find it really in kind of four buckets. It's one is they don't have the time. They think they don't have the time. Is this the right time to get in the market? Number two, they think that they need a huge amount of money to get involved, and they think that, am I going to be able to learn this? Or it seems so overarching. So to me, I hear all those. The learning piece, you're going to school. If you become a doctor, you can get into real estate. I think that goes, in my opinion, without saying. The monetary piece component, there's in the real estate syndication world, and for those who aren't as familiar with that terminology, at a very high level, what it is we're pulling together a group of limited partners, let's say such as yourselves, to acquire a property or properties, let's say 100 plus unit apartment, okay? And then we're relying on the general partners, sometimes also known as the sponsors, to execute that business plan, okay? Folks will think, man, I need a lot of money to get involved in something like that. They'll drive by these huge buildings like, oh, who owns those things? It can be you. And the minimum investment is $50,000. So it's a much lower entry point than folks think. The other piece being about, do I have the time? I don't have the time to learn this. It's all about in chunks, whether that be, especially if you're walking on the go, there's so many good podcasts that you can learn not only about real estate, but financial education, such as yourselves, such as the one we're on right now. And then finding quick pockets and snippets of even folks, again, video-wise and social media. A lot of folks like myself are active in that from an education standpoint, especially for those that don't have the time to sit down and read. And reading is another avenue. And the other piece is it the right time to invest, right? Do I need to wait? And that piece, if you wait for the perfect timing, just as in life, if you wait to start to do something when you think it's going to be perfect, then you don't do anything. It's paralysis by analysis. So those are really kind of the four pieces that I hear, and that's really what my feedback and thought process is.
Okay, well, I like that process. And so talking about them, driving by the building, like who owns that, thinking that they need a whole bunch of money to get into it. So because of your experience, I do feel like you're able to elaborate on this next thought that I have. Based on my experience and what I've seen, a lot of physicians, when they graduate from school, they have the mentality that they have to drive the nice car, they have to live in a nice house, their children got to go to the top-notch school. Can we talk a little bit about that mindset to where they want to look the part instead of saving for their future? They need to look like a physician.
Yeah, So you're speaking, the last word you said, or one of the last words you said is spot on, is mindset. And a big piece that physicians face when they're coming out of residency or fellowship, and all of a sudden now they're making some pretty good money, is social societal pressure, even those from peers. Like, oh man, I've been living very frugal for a long time. One piece.
Right.
Now I'm getting money, and here we go. Right. That's one piece. And then it's the societal and peer pressure. Oh, my friend or so-and-so just bought this. And, I see them out, and you see different things that maybe they're getting influenced from social media or close confidants. Those are two pieces where you need to mentally prepare yourself for that and say, hey, let's live the way I've been living for the next 2 to 3 years. And now, to use an expression, now we're going to be cooking with some gas.
A lot of gas.
A lot of gas.
Yeah.
A lot of gas.
That's good. So have you had to mentor a physician? Like maybe you've seen maybe a young physician, he has this mindset, but then you on the investment side, you see what he's doing with his future. He's losing it. Have you ever had to mentor anybody and say, no, you need to slow it down. Look at this for an investment instead of spending it all now?
Yeah. So one, yes, those conversations are absolutely had. And the other piece too is, depending on where you're going to school, we're talking massive amounts of student debt, hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds. Like depending on where you go, we're talking astronomical levels. That needs to get paid back. And my thought process is you want to start attacking that the sooner the better. So you're putting yourself in a better state, not only from a mentality perspective, but also financially, as opposed to carrying around student debt for just eons of years, 4, 5, 6, 10 years. You want to get that out of the way.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm thinking, so do you think before they get into real estate investing, that they should have the debt paid off, or should they get it down to a certain percentage before they even pursue real estate investing?
So number one, my personal opinion, you definitely want to start partially at least attacking that. Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
Now on the investment side, in my opinion, it's going to depend on what type of investment you get into and what the specific, let's say, hold period or time period is, and then what the arbitrage opportunity is. So arbitrage opportunity, let's say I have to pay 6% on something, okay? But instead of me putting that money into that, I can go invest that and get 12% instead. So that I've picked up a 6% gap between what I would have paid on the interest on the loan versus what my investment would have been. So we took advantage of what we call an arbitrage opportunity. Now, the important piece, though, is, hey, if you're going to invest in something that maybe pays 12%, how secure is that? What type of investment are we talking about? Because like anything else, investments you're investing, it's at-risk capital. No matter what you're investing in, your investment's at-risk capital unless you're investing in treasury bonds and in T-bills, right? That's the whole conversation that we have and folks should have to say, okay, if I wasn't going to put everything in there, I want to put in someone else, what would it pay me? How secure is the investment? What's my time horizon or hold period in that?
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, because if you can get more money back, then why wouldn't you go for it, right? So, and we're talking about real estate. So we have stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and all those types of investment options.
Sure.
Why do you think real estate is like better than a stock or a mutual fund or other options that you have available?
Well, I can tell you this. I think they're both good. I'm a proponent of both the public and the private markets, including real estate. So my thought process in portfolio construction, we talked about this earlier, of 60-40, 60% stocks, 40% bonds. I'm much more of a believer in what some of the largest pension plans in the country and the world are doing, like CalPERS and New York City State Pension Plan. These are $470 billion, $280 billion plans. And their model is very much a 40-30-30 model, 40% stocks, 30% bonds, 30% alternatives inclusive of real estate. So I use that as a framework. And then depending on the individual, you either increase or decrease from that. Now, so that's that. As far as why I'm a huge proponent of real estate and specifically syndications over REITs, because REITs are are another type of investment vehicle, but there's some disadvantages to a REIT, which we can get to.
Yeah,
when you're investing in real estate, okay, there's a number of benefits. One, for high income earners, the depreciation that you can pick up and get through a real estate investment is very powerful. That's why you hear people on TV, they talk about, oh, how is this guy making all this money and guy or gal making all this money? They don't pay any taxes. One, they have a multitude of income streams. And two, they're utilizing investment vehicles such as real estate to take their paper losses, which you can acquire which you'll experience through depreciation, and offset some of your passive gains that you may have from your traditional portfolio. Let's say investing in stocks as an example, right? So you have the tax benefits, you have the stability. As long as you're working with a strong group, that is my job to vet out the teams, the operators, and the opportunities for my clients. That is my job. That's the due diligence that is my responsibility. When we are finding these groups, as opposed to the stock markets over the past 5 years, from 2019 to 2024, market was great. Minus 2022. 2022 was a down year. And this year, the market was doing fantastic until, again, as of this recording, which is in August, the market was doing great until it wasn't. And not only did it have a complete meltdown, Monday morning, folks that were trying to access their accounts in Schwab, E-Trade, Vanguard, they could not access their accounts. They were locked out for the day. So that's not the first time that happened, and it's not going to be the last. Right. What does that tell you? So I say that from a stability, stock market can be a roller coaster where on a real estate perspective, you can really build out and target, okay, this is where I am now. This is where I want to be. What do I need to do to get there from not only a cash flow perspective, but appreciation? That's really another one I'd say is the stability. We talked about the tax benefits portion. And also from everyone's talking about inflation, real estate is a very strong hedge against inflation, is a tangible, hard asset. If you think about it from, let's say, apartment buildings, they're charging rent to their respective tenants. Those leases are either 3, 6, or 12 months. That rent is usually can be adjusted accordingly, which we saw, unfortunately, in 2022 for respective tenants. I mean, there's up to certain levels, it gets out of control, but you can make those short-term adjustments to keep up with inflation. So those are some of the benefits as far as why real estate and how I think that makes sense to get involved from a holistic portfolio construction, inclusive of stocks and bonds.
Okay, so now we need you to explain to the audience what a REIT is.
Yes.
Okay, so a REIT stands for a real estate investment trust. So I'd say two of the biggest differences, okay, that you're going to find from a REIT from what we're talking about today being syndications, is a REIT, a majority of them are traded on the public stock market, okay? And because of that, they're much more highly correlated to the public market. So if their market's going up, they're going up. If they're going down, they're going down. So I'd argue if you're looking from a diversification standpoint, while you are getting some real estate diversification, as far as a risk mitigation from volatility, it's not going to be as strong as you think. The other one, which is a huge one from the tax side of things, is a real estate investment trust as a REIT is a fund made up of different properties, real estate in a city, state, across the country. But it's like you're investing in it's the same thing as if you're investing in a mutual fund. You don't own any of the underlying asset. You own a piece of the fund. Because you own the piece of the fund, you don't get to experience any of the depreciation or the paper tax losses that come with real estate. Versus in a syndication, you are getting what we call a K1, which is a document from the IRS that you receive every year that shows that signifies a partnership. Because you are a partner, you're a limited partner when you invest, and you will see what your percentage of ownership is. And also it shows you, again, how much of your paper losses from depreciation you can use to offset some of your passive gains. And if you have more losses than gains in a given year, you can carry those losses over or forward in perpetuity.
Oh, wow.
That's deep. That's good. That was a good explanation, though.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what the difference was.
I didn't either, but now I do. So could you explain about your investors club? Could you explain a little bit about that and how you would join
Yeah. So what I've done is I've put together a couple different educational resources, but one of the ones specifically is called, it's a financial RX playbook, how medical professionals win through passive real estate investing. So in there, it's to be read more like a magazine versus a book. So it talks about some of the current challenges being faced that we talked about in the medical community, and then how real estate can help with that. And my whole goal when I put this together is I'm not putting it as a complete bias, everything's great, because there are risks like in any investment, real estate included. So I include the benefits, I include the risks, include a sample investment, I include questions that you yourself, if you ever were talking to a respective general partner or sponsor, that you would want to ask to help from your vetting process. Again, that's what my job, when I work with my clients, that is what my vetting is. But if folks ever wanted to do it on their own, those are some questions they could ask. So the investor club is when folks go, they receive a copy of this, they receive a copy of the playbook, and then it's all about education. So they will get a series of that intro week, about 7 or 8 emails throughout that time period about real estate, folks really thinking about what's their why, writing it down on a piece of paper. It's very powerful. What do you want your investments? What do you want real estate to be the vehicle for? Some individuals say, I want passive income, which I think if you ask 100 people will tell you that same answer. But then it's the component of, why do you want passive income? Well, I want to be able to travel more. Okay, all right, fantastic. Or you want to travel? Like, we're trying to kind of peel back the layers, say, what exactly do you want this to be able to help you get to? So it's travel with family, be able to contribute more to philanthropic endeavors that you're very passionate about, to be able to help out maybe one financially, family or friends, helping you the ability to become work optional. Again, why do you want to become work optional? It's really helping uncover that. So by the end of that email series, folks really have a pretty good sense between the ebook and the emails. Hey, this is something that is a fit for me, and I think I want to learn more about it and schedule a call myself. Or they say, I read it, interesting, this isn't the right time for me, or maybe this isn't a good fit. And so that's what the investor club, what that, and then if you're joined, then you're included on different investment opportunities.
Okay. And then based on after they go through that series of emails and the ebook, and they decide to join, and you reach out to them, then what are the steps that you go through with them to actually join the club? Is it like an upfront fee, or is it like just
there's no fee. There's no fees on any of the, as far as what I'm building is a community.
Okay.
Perfect.
Community of folks, like-minded, ambitious, want to put themselves in a better situation financially, and helping them, again, diversify their portfolio. And so that's really what the community is about. When we speak, when I have a call, though, let's say we were talking for the first time, more a strategy session, discovery call, whatever you want to, however you want to think about it. To use an analogy, right? When, let's say, we've all gone to the doctors, and we all should have asked questions when we were there, but we didn't even think to ask them because we just didn't know. You don't know what you don't know, right? So what we're doing here, when I meet with a client the first time, it's a physician-patient relationship, but the roles are reversed, where I'm acting as the physician and they're acting as the patient. Because if you're going to see a doctor for the first time, or if you're going to see a cardiologist, and you're not going to see them right away. They're not going to ask any questions. They're not going to prescribe you something and call it a day. They need to have the conversation, discover what the problem is, how long it's been there for, what maybe has been causing the problem, and are we the right fit or solution to help solve that problem? If we are, fantastic. If we're not, let's go look to refer you, right, to somebody else. I'm using a cardiologist. They are already a specialist, but refer to someone else who could be a fit for what the antidote or prescription they may need.
All right.
Okay. And so, for individual investors, a lot of times, most times, most financial advisors decide that you need to have a certain net worth before they will even have an appointment with you. With what you're doing, how do you determine if they are a good fit for you? What's the criteria for them, for you?
Yeah. So as far as these type of investments are, I would probably say about 85% of them in the marketplace, they're broken down in 2 buckets. There's 506B as in boy and 506C as in cat. Okay. A deal that is a 506C deal is for accredited investors only. Accredited investor definition by the SEC, Security and Exchange Commission, is an individual that grosses $200,000, married couple $300,000, net worth of $1 million, not including the primary residence. There are some other ones out there that are a little more opaque, but those are the three main ones. 506B is in boy, is open to accredited and non-accredited. In the current environment, in the current marketplace, I would say about 85, maybe 80% of opportunities are 506Cs and CAT. The reason being is 506C opportunities can be advertised out to the masses, to the public, okay, on social media, email. You don't need to have a pre-existing relationship. Whereas 506B is in boy, you do need to have a pre-existing relationship with that individuals. Otherwise, you can't just send them something without knowing who these people are, or just mass communicate. The individuals that we'll speak to, right? I try to educate and make that clear up front, of just to let you know, FYI, minimum investment's $50,000 when you get it from an investment perspective. And then as far as the opportunities, what we have available. So like for me right now, I currently have 2 investment opportunities that are 506Cs and CAT. And the reason being for me is, right, they're open-ended. They don't have hard close dates, right? So it's not one's essentially like a high yield savings account on steroids, and the other one's a short-term rental plan. But that doesn't mean I don't look for 506B opportunities. The biggest piece for me is it's the teams and the people versus the investment.
Okay.
Nice.
Like anything else, it's all about the people, moral compass, knowing how to execute a business plan, risk mitigation, preservation of capital, right? We got to like check those boxes off. So I need to make sure that whoever I partner with is going to be good stewards of capital. So that's part of my, what you could say, financial Hippocratic oath, right? Hippocratic oath is from a medical terminology. Mine is like, don't lose money. It's preservation of capital, right? We need to reduce as much risk as possible to make sure that we're putting our clients in every possible avenue and way for success. So if folks don't fit that right now, I still invite them, if you're interested to eventually get into real estate, right? There are going to be opportunities. It's all about education. You got to even start somewhere too, if you've never even thought about it. That's what we need to do.
Okay.
So with that, because I do like the passive income. I think that's everybody needs passive income. So if you get into the actual club and you start investing the initial 50,000, when would you see a return on that? Would it take a couple months or?
So all depends on the investments. So one of the pieces too, we talked about how this type of investing isn't for everybody. Outside of a debt fund, which we'll get to, outside of a debt fund, the typical hold period is 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
So someone's looking to invest, this is not a solution or strategy where you want to put rainy day funds in. This isn't a solution or strategy where you need to get that money back at a certain period of time. Absolutely not. So those are like 2 boxes where if you fit in that camp, probably isn't the right fit for you unless you're looking to invest in what we call a real estate debt fund. And this ties back to your question of when can folks start generating or experiencing even some of the passive income. On a debt fund, you can start receiving, you have 2 methods. You either receive monthly distributions, or you can, what I recommend folks to do is let it sit in the fund and let it compound. Your 9%, your 8% can turn to 9, your 9 can turn into 10. And that's really where the magic happens. But in case you needed your money back, it comes with a max of 90-day liquidity. So that's a strategy for folks who are looking for some good yield in their money. We're talking 8+% yield with the ability to get their money back if they need it. Now, let's say there's other strategies. So I'm speaking to the 2 that are most present in my mind, just because those are the ones that I'm actively, that is open to new investors, is short-term rental portfolio. That pays out quarterly distributions. So if someone invested, let's say in June, they would receive their first distribution in, end of June, in mid-August is when they receive their first distribution. That has a hold period of 3 to 5 years. But that's where you get more upsides. You're expecting an annual rate of return of
Mhm.
18+%, and then you
Mhm.
get the tax benefits that come with investing in these type of opportunities from depreciation.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Well, that's good
Mhm.
information. And then, Rob, to be honest, this
Yeah.
content is beyond what we do, but we want to do something for the medical professionals, for the
Yeah.
physicians out there. And so, if there's any information that additional that you think a physician
Mhm.
may need to know that we didn't ask, I'm giving you an opportunity now to speak. If you think there's something that a doctor might need to know that we did not ask, I just feel in my
Yeah.
heart that you should say it.
For sure. So there's one thing that we didn't talk about. That's a totally separate conversation. Is I'm starting to work and help physicians explore the possibility of going into private practice. That's
Oh,
one
that's
thing
a
I'm
good
starting.
one.
Oh.
So, and what that looks like, and again, we talked about this throughout the 11, 12, 13, 14 years of schooling, medical professionals not go through any sort of business education, financial education at all.
Mhm.
So what I'm doing is I'm putting them in touch with attorneys, feasibility consultants, CPAs, folks on the lending side, to start kicking the tires to think about, okay, if I wanted to do this, could I do it? Does it make
Mhm.
sense? If I could, when could I do it? What's my runway? So
Mhm.
that's one thing that I'm now starting to do. That's totally separate from what we
That's
talked about, right?
It
The other
is.
piece I would say too, from a medical professional perspective, there is more and more education out for the medical community than there's ever been. Think about it as, professional athletes. There's much more education going on from the financial aspect outside of right from school. Same thing now in medical. There's some great medical folks that have very robust and strong platforms. White Coat
Mhm.
Investor with Dr. Jim Dolly. He's an emergency physician. Dr. Peter Kim, passive income MD. He is an anesthesiologist. They hold big conferences. I attended the one with White Coat Investor back in February. Passive Income MD with Dr. Peter Kim is going to take place in Dallas in September. I would say to folks, there's more out than you think. There's a huge stigma around money, especially with physicians and medical professionals, about not talking about money. That you got to. It's uncomfortable, but it needs to happen, because if it
Right.
doesn't happen, if we're looking to change, because if there's no change, then nothing's going to happen. So that's another piece too, is mindset. A great book to read for those who haven't out there is also with Dr. Jillian Horton. Everything's Perfectly Fine. She talks about what her experience was as a physician. She went to essentially like a retreat and how it changed a lot of her mindset. She does now some coaching around that. It's a great book. I'm Perfectly Fine with Dr. Jillian Horton is another one I would recommend for physicians out there.
Perfect. Thank you for
Nice.
that.
Yeah, that was good. So, the other questions you had?
Okay, so one of the things, and then this we'll let you go, but you
Yeah,
got so much
you
information. I
do.
just want to make sure if we have a
Yeah.
medical professional that's listening in, that they're going to be able to get a lot of knowledge from what you have to present. And so one of the reasons why you made a U-turn in your career is because you saw physicians getting burned out and maybe even thinking about leaving their career. Do you have any words of encouragement for a physician that may be completely burned out to help them reignite the flame?
Yeah. So from a reignite the flame perspective, two pieces. One, well, actually, let's even think about burnout for a second, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how we define it, and what I think the antithesis or the opposite of that is, and how this comes all together. So burnout, it's a global, a health phenomenon for the negative. The World Health Organization, has declared
Mm-hmm.
it a health concern. And what is burnout, right? There's many symptoms, but they fall under three different spokes: emotional, physical, complete exhaustion. You've lost your sense of purpose at work and what you do. And that's personally even too what happened with me when I shared my story. And three, efficacy. You don't really feel that you're that good at what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So my job, the antithesis of that, what I call it, is kind of the ABC. Okay. It's
Mm-hmm.
A, autonomy. You have both personal and professional autonomy. B, belonging. So you're more proud of the name on the front of the jersey versus the back of your jersey. And
Mm-hmm.
ideally, you find that at work. But you then maybe find a community. So let's say you like cooking, gardening, working out, or you find a group of medical professionals or physicians that are on Facebook and online. You guys can, wherever can chat. And that's what I'm building. And then see competency. You're good at what you do. So for those, and I can't help with the C's, but I can help with the A's and the So from the A perspective, start working towards the ability to become, you're going to work because you want to, not because you have to. There's a huge difference with that.
Yes, it is.
Oh, yes.
From a mentality perspective, massive difference, because you're there because you want to versus you have to.
Right.
Yes.
Other pieces too, right? So then you can start, and a big component of that is in the financial aspect, right? The other bucket and the other piece that we talk about, not only from the belonging, but mindset and utilizing, and I spoke about the book by Dr. Jillian Horton, but start communicating, reading, and listening to different ways and strategies. One can be breathing techniques and being cognizant, or yoga, being cognizant of trying to put yourself in a better mental state. Now, I understand that is a challenge when you're at work and you're dealing with a lot of things that can be outside of your control, but we can control our reactions to things. Can come at us, but we can decide whether or not we're going to yell. As an example, someone says something to us, we can decide, hey, I'm going to go and tell this person to go pound sand in a PG version, or I can react in a totally different manner. And how that comes to be is mentality, mindset, and tapping's another one. For folks aren't familiar with tapping, actually, it's a pretty fascinating. I just started doing this, tapping at different points within your body from a stress perspective. It's a very interesting. Someone actually was just telling me about that. It's supposed to just be good for overall health, and I'm a big proponent, very health conscious, and very much proponent for staying healthy and staying in shape. So anytime someone brings something like that to my attention, I'm like, yeah, I'm interested to learn about it. So that's another one that I can't speak to how it's made me feel yet, because I just literally just started it. But it has amazing, from what I've read and spoken to folks who have done it, very good health benefit.
Okay, that's good to know. I've never heard of that.
Me either.
Maybe someday I need to do that. Okay.
All right. Well, just one last question, and then we can get ready to close out, I guess. So one of the things that we were talking about is Freedom Matrix. Could you talk a little bit about that? Freedom Matrix. What is that?
So that's another educational resource I've put together.
Okay.
It's a freedom metric calculator. The whole idea and design around this, and it's rudimentary by design, is for individuals to get a sense of how much income do they need to be generating, passive income, in a given year to become work optional, or financially independent is the way I like to think of it, but however way you want to say it. So what I've done is, again, it's rudimentary by design. It's an Excel document. It's 3 different tabs. First one includes a video of me recording about how the best way and most effective way to tool. Okay. The second, and this requires homework for a lot of folks, because a lot of individuals have no idea how much to spend on a monthly basis. They don't know where it's going. Folks aren't keeping track of budgets. It's well above 50%, at least in my experience. The whole idea is I give a sample of, let's say, what a monthly budget is. It's broken down by categories: right? Food, entertainment, mortgage, let's say student loans, and then it's required of the individual to go and then fill it out on their end. Say, okay, this is now what I'm currently spending. What are my fixed costs? Now that's the monthly numbers. Now what we want to do is extrapolate that out to the year and say, okay, I need to, and I'll just use an even round number. I'll just do 100,000 for the sake of the exercise. Okay, I need to make $100,000 in passive income in order for me to, at this current juncture, if I wanted to, could walk away and it would cover all my living. Third tab is where I've put in some sample investment criteria, and it's noted of, these are assumptions. We're assuming a cash flow of 8%, an annual rate of return of 18%. And then you can go in and plug in, okay, if I invest this much this year and this much this year, how long will it take me to get to my number, to where then I say, okay, I now feel confident. I can say now I've become work optional, financially independent. The whole idea of being able to build wealth and retire on your terms. That's what the calculator does, the Freedom Metric calculator.
I like that calculator.
I do too. Work
Right.
optional.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
very important.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Rob, for your interview. And now I just need you to tell the listeners where they can find you.
Yeah, easiest way to find me is if you go to northsquarecapital.com. It's spelled just the way it sounds. So northsquarecapital.com. You can find all my socials down at the bottom. I'm very active on all the socials. You'll find educational resources, my contact info. That's probably the best place to start.
Okay. And are you limited to only working with people in Boston, or can they be in other areas?
Oh no, it's all across the country. So I have clients all across the country. I'm just based in Boston, the North End specifically. For those that are listening, the little Italy of the city. It's fantastic for those who ever venture out this way.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you again for joining us on Bartelle's Money Talk, and we look forward to speaking with you again.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Rob.